Hi, my name is Katie Elsaesser, and I will be asking Ford Elsaesser, who is not only my father, but my law partner, some questions about his legal career. Why don't you tell us about where you grew up?
Um, Thank you. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, on the Pennsylvania border, sort of the absolute buckle of the Rust Belt. My grandmother on one side's family started the city about 150 years before I was born, and was instrumental in building up the steel industry. It was a great place to grow up. My mother was a elementary school teacher at Washington Elementary, which overlooked about half of the steel mills in the valley. My dad was a trial lawyer in Ohio during his entire career.
So you would be a second generation attorney then?
Yes, yes. Yes, my dad went to Fordham Law School at night and worked at Radio City. He was one of the first stagehands at Radio City Music Hall when it just opened in 1934 during the day. And then he would take the subway down to Fordham Law School, which is in the Woolworth building in those days, before heading home to the family.
How did your, legal career start from after graduating from U of I to ending up residing in Priest River, Idaho?
Well, during law school, I was an intern at Eli Rapich's office in Lewiston, whose name some people will remember, and was probably going to end up working there after law school. I graduated early because I had taken summer classes. So I was graduating in December, and it was always well known that the ultimate candy course in your last semester, when grading was much tougher at the U of I than it is now, was to take administrative law. The professor was Tom Cook, who was a visiting professor from Priest River, who had graduated a few years before. And one day I just went up after class and asked him if he would be interested in hiring an associate. He said he had never given it any thought, but he promised he would. And about a month and a half later, Gene and I moved up to Priest River, Idaho in December 1977, and we've been here ever since.
Do you have one of your most memorable case or a case that defined your career?
Well, I think certainly one of the more interesting and dramatic cases was when I was appointed as trustee for the Aryan Nations Church, which was the first major white supremacist group that was active in North Idaho, and was famous for having marches through in Nazi regalia through downtown Coeur d'Alene. They filed Reverend Butler, who headed that church, filed Chapter 7. They had a beautiful compound up above the rim rocks along Highway 95 in north of Hayden, Idaho. And we took over that bank. I was appointed in that bankruptcy, and it was certainly high profile. In addition, as part of the sale, we were able to work as part of the court-approved sale with Judge Terry Myers, that I was able to take a semi-truck load of actual Nazi regalia, which included helmets, uniforms, pistol holsters, and so forth, some of them genuine, authentic Nazi regalia, and have the entire contents of the semi-truck incinerated at the waste to energy plant incinerator in Spokane.
And among notable cases, you did at one point argue a case up to the United States Supreme Court, correct?
Yes, in October of 1994, I had the privilege of arguing the Bonner Mall case before the U.S. Supreme Court. It was Justice Breyer's first day in the court. It was the first Monday in October. We were the third argument. He had just been sworn in earlier that day as a Supreme Court justice. And we were arguing for the elimination of the concept of vacature, the idea of vacating lower court decisions in order to create a clear path on appeal. We argued that to the Supreme Court and ended up 3 weeks later with a 9-0 opinion from Justice Scalia. And of course, it was a wonderful experience having the opportunity to argue before the Supreme Court in that setting.
Aside from bankruptcy, is there any area of the law that you enjoy practicing, whether being compensated or pro bono, an area of the law?
I enjoy doing the community work that I've been involved in, such as being chair of Bonner General Hospital for the last 14 years. It was particularly, while challenging, it was particularly very satisfying to get through COVID. I have done other types of litigation over the years. I guess one of the best experiences I've had, certainly in recent decades, have been teaching. I've always done a lot of CLE teaching on bankruptcy all around the country. At one time, I traveled to, I think, about half the states, talking to state court judges about how they deal with civil litigation when one of their litigants is in bankruptcy, bankruptcy issues for state court trial judges, which hopefully most of the Idaho district judges still have on their desk or in their bookshelf. But teaching at the University of Idaho College of Law and teaching at St. John's University. I've taught at St. John's since 2001, but teaching at the U of I College of Law has been a great experience. One, feeling like you're giving something back to where you learned. When Professor Joanne Henderson retired suddenly in the early 2000s, I took over the bankruptcy programs at the University of Idaho, and it's been a great experience, and it's been wonderful to see all my to actually practice with so many of my former students and see the achievements of folks like Noah Hillen, our new bankruptcy judge, and Jason Nace, our U.S. trustee, and relatively new U.S. trustee, who were our former students. It's a very satisfying experience.
So, as Ford's daughter, one of the first things I hear whenever I introduce myself is, "Are you related to Ford Elsaesser?" Because Elsaesser is not a very common name. And as soon as I say it, whoever I'm talking to in whatever situation, it's, "Oh, I just love Ford. Ford's the best." And all my legal experience, I've never had anyone come up to me and not have just all positive things to say. He really helped us out in a bind. Great to work with. Everyone just says great things, and so it's a hard expectation to live up to. And when I'm struggling through a difficult case, or opposing counsel is just trying to make a case more difficult, and I want to go full steam ahead with, fighting tooth and nail, I always try and go back to what would Ford do, because he's always speaking about working together, and it's always in your client's best interest to have that, relationship with opposing counsel, relationship with the court, and being professional above all else, and helping the community. My parents both have always been around, or they're always the first to help with time or money or structure, or donating time to organizations in the area that need assistance. We grew, I grew up in a very small town where Ford still lives today. And I do as well. And it's amazing what a attorney from a small town of less than 2,000 can make an impact both in the state of Idaho and nationally. And I'm very proud to call him my dad, and I'm very proud to call him my law partner. And it's well deserved, and I'm very proud of him to be getting this award.